Hi, welcome to No Movies in Hell. I'm Chris Geiger.
I'm Lacroix, and we are reviewing Dune. Denis Villeneuve. I hope I am pronouncing his last name right.
Much anticipated Dune. The trailers for this came out before coronavirus pandemic hit and closed everything down. But they came out, I think, a good amount before that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so it gave me enough time, I thought. It's like, oh, I better go watch the old Dune because I didn't read the book and I didn't know the story. But I knew there was this movie that people in the past had sort of referred to, kind of like, oh yeah, David Lynch did Dune, and okay, I better watch this before the new one comes out. And I did. And then a year and a half later, I've basically kind of forgotten most of what happened in that movie. And now it's time to watch the new one. It's not a fair comparison in any sense of the word because I saw it streaming on my little TV at home, right? And I saw the new Dune in IMAX, and I was unfortunately sitting in the third row, so everything was huge. It's not fair to compare them at all, really. It's just kind of like letting me know what was going to happen, sort of.
Yeah, I have the same kind of journey. We are a David Lynch household, so everybody's been doing their homework pretty diligently. I ended up, I've seen David Lynch's Dune in bits and pieces over the course of the years, but I want to say a month ago, I kind of sat down and since it was on HBO Max, just kind of watched it to get kind of a framework of what's going to happen in this new film. And so highly anticipated in the household. Went to IMAX at Lincoln Square. Yes, that fourth row. Had an amazing experience. I really like this film. I think I was very impressed by all of the casting, like everything from the casting, the cinematography, the story breakdown compared to David Lynch's. There was definitely a line of delineation between the tones and the houses and kind of the politics at play that were kind of implicit with Lynch's version. And this one was very explicit, but complemented with implicit in terms of how these characters interact with each other. But it was certainly world building. It was, every scene was just completely gorgeous. Every piece of detail was like so thoughtful. Spoiler alert, I hope that there's a part two. This is like something that I would watch. Like if there's a mini series on this, episodic, I would totally watch it, like tune in every single week if I had to see kind of what kind of world is built around Arrakis and in these families, and how are they solving for it. I gave this movie a perfect score. However, I do have issues with some of these issues with some things that happen in this film, and I'm more than happy to get into that.
So let me share our rating screens. All right, Lacroix, no pressure, but you gave this a perfect score.
I did. I thought it was so great. The acting is great. I mean, I'm an Oscar Isaac fan. I'm a Jason Momoa fan. I love Javier Bardem. I'm a Josh Brolin fan. I feel as though we are in the cinematic universe of Oscar Isaac. He literally, the Card Counter, Addams Family, Dune. What other movie is he in? Am I missing something? Oh, he's on a movie that's on HBO that I forgot the title of. Timothée Chalamet. I'm probably butchering his name. He's in Dune. He's in The French Dispatch. And he's in another film that I can't think of at the top of my head. These are all kind of converging together. Dave Bautista's in this movie. He was in Denis Villeneuve's Blade Runner 2049, which I love. Zendaya is in this film a little bit, but we'll be getting to that. The costumes were just amazing. Like the way that they did everything was so attentive to detail and very distinct and clear. I can go on and on with all the positives. So do you want to touch on all of your, like, what really stood out to you?
So I did like the casting. I think maybe we should add a casting category because I think casting is different than acting.
Yeah, that's true.
I thought the casting
Oh,
was
that's my Raiders choice then.
I think the casting was amazing for this movie, right? Like, so everything, this movie was set up for success on every level, right? They gave it the budget. They have strong people attached in every category. The soundtrack was great. The special effects were great. The cinematography was great. The acting, they got a good cast. And I think the acting was great. The only reason I didn't give it a 3 is because I felt like because you get such heavy hitters from a casting perspective, you expect heavy hit. Those people aren't phoning it in, right? Ever. So you're going to get their performance for them to each of them to deliver like this massive performance is a lot to ask in one movie. Casting was amazing. The actors did what you completely expected they would do. So that's why I gave it a 2. The cinematography reminded me of Blade Runner a lot, especially those Las Vegas scenes, all that sand. I feel like he does a really good job with sand. Costumes, I agree. Hair and makeup, awesome. Jewelry, like they featured his signet ring pretty heavily, but it was a signet ring. It wasn't super remarkable on its own.
Do you remember like Jessica's, she had kind of like a body armor, not necessarily body armor, but like a lot of bejeweled kind of.
Yeah, like her headdress.
Yes, I think that's the part that stood out to me that I was like, I love that. And I kind of categorized that in jewelry more so than costumes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I put that then costumes. I have to think more about like what distinction, where the line is for me between costume and jewelry. But I thought the story was strong. It helps that it comes from a book and that you are expecting more to happen. Fully expect that this is a trilogy, even though I didn't read the book. I've seen the book. It looks quite thick. We didn't get through all of it. I'm sure that will be coming out soon because it's doing great. It's
Oh, yeah.
definitely gonna hit its mark in terms of expected return.
Yes. Right behind Bond. So Bond is like number 1, Dune is number 2, but at this rate, give it this upcoming weekend, it could be eclipse Bond in terms of box office, which is great. I'm rooting for this film, and I really hope we'll hear more about part 2.
I definitely think that this will do better than Bond long term because people will watch it again. This is definitely a movie where I went to see it with my friend, but I would go see it again. Part of that is because I felt like because we saw it in a very crowded theater, the second day it was out, and we didn't have the greatest seats, right? We were like smashed up against the screen, so we were like, looking up the whole time, and that was uncomfortable. And I feel like I would be happy to go back, see it again when the theater is less crowded, and I can maybe get a little bit further back from the screen and take it all in. Because I think when you're that close to the screen, you really just you can't get a perspective on those wider shots.
Would you see it in IMAX again?
If I could get away from if I could get back from it.
I'm like, yeah, I guess that was the real theater experience. It wasn't like our screening wasn't crowded upon like when we seated. However, when I bought the tickets, they were all sold out. So it was like almost the last 2 seats in the theater. And then I think that like people realized it was on HBO Max and they didn't show up or like they got refunded money. I would definitely see this again in the movie theater. I don't know if it'd be IMAX. And I mean, I guess I would probably watch it on HBO Max, but I just loved the theater environment, kind of taking everything all in, the landscape. So now I guess my issue with, yes, it is a story about a family that believes that they're going to make things better for Native people. Unfortunately, a lot of the people that die in this film are people of color. So it's either they're set up as like a test to a virtue for Paul, or unfortunately, this is a movie about colonizing a planet in order to take the resources. This was being recognized at the top by having the voiceover of Shawnee, like just telling the story in the background of how this happened. And I was like, oh, that's interesting that they had her frame this up, because in the David Lynch version, it wasn't framed up as such. It was kind of like you're conquering this thing as seen from the oppressors, and now you're seeing it from kind of her perspective. So I'm curious to see in volume 2 if they will continue on this narrative where she actually has a say and she's not just a prop or a character, much like Sean Young was in David Lynch's. Like, she didn't have voice. It was just kind of like she was just going with it with Paul. But I feel like it's great in terms of the opportunity to kind of show a different lens with the story for part 2. But I'm pretty sure it would infuriate people who are loyalists to the book. You know, there's a lot of the book, and much like the movie, there's a lot of characters, you know, with different dialects, source or root material. And I felt like this movie was really true to that. Just like, oh man, this sucks. And I know that's like not a one of our qualifying criteria of like, basically we have a rich, diverse cast, but unfortunately a lot of the people are not expendable in a way, but kind of they are.
So because I haven't read the book, I don't know what ultimately happens, but I was surprised at the number of people who seemed like they were going to be key characters who died so quickly. I thought, oh well, that's okay. I guess we're gonna get a new batch next movie.
Yeah. Or yeah, I'm like curious to see how it's going to go. But I feel like I've been told by someone who read the book, the characters are kind of true to form. Like Oscar Isaac, really, his casting was pretty perfect in terms of what the leader of the House Atreides looks like. Curly black hair, like olive skin. So I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like the casting choices seem really good, but yeah, it's just like, oh man, like that's a bummer. But on that sour note, I love this film. I would watch it again. Halloween is just around the corner. If I could make a shift a suit, that'd be awesome. I don't know how I do it. A bunch of licorice, rubber, like black rubber balloons or something. I don't know.
All right, if you do it, we have to feature, like we need a picture to put on No Movies. We'll add it to the end of this video.
That would be great.
I do think I would watch it again, but in the theater. Like I don't think I want to watch it at home.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for people who are watching it at home, because I think that you are missing out on such a better experience.
I agree.
Like
I know it's tough.
Yeah. I mean, I know people don't like to go out, and I know people have better TVs than I do, so maybe they're not missing out as much as I would miss out if I watched it on my TV. But I don't know. To me, this is worth going to the movies for. And now that I've seen it in the theater, I don't want to watch it at home.
Yeah. No, I express the same sentiment. And also I feel like it's going to it better snap up awards. Everything was just so well done.
Yeah, I mean, I would be surprised if it didn't get just a ton of nominations. And I was gonna go back and try to figure out what was gonna be in this year's set. I did go back. I did look online, but it was not easy to figure out. Or I guess it wasn't easy to figure out in the 30 seconds I was willing to give it.
I think that it's an Oscar contention. That's the reason why it's the latter half of the year. You know, same with Bond and a couple of other movies that we'll be reviewing soon.
The Bond soundtrack was good. Like I didn't say that in our Bond review, but I thought the Bond soundtrack was good. Do you have anything to promote in this episode?
Nothing to promote, but hope that we have a Dune POAP, because that would be awesome.
Yes.
Anything to plug? Oh, your mug is a spoiler for one of the next reviews that we'll have.
Yep. So coming up, The French Dispatch. Lacroix has already seen it. I'm going to see it this week. So that'll be upcoming episode. And then I don't know what we'll be talking about other than that. Lacroix mentioned she's seeing a movie every other day, so there's no shortage of content. that can
We'll
be
never run out of
created.
content.
We're going to close this episode out. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Bye.